All right, now tell me about going to Korea.
Okay, there was only about 100 of us got on a small ship. It was also a cargo ship. And the captain of the ship gave us a welcome aboard speech. And he must have really meant it because the whole crew was real nice to us. And as far as I know, no one had to do KP. They cleaned up for us. But I figured out later on why that was because they were so glad they didn't have to get off when they got there. But as we were leaving Sasebo, we looked back and there was a huge sign there. It says, "Through this port pass the best damn fighting men in the world."
Uh,
Trying to, build us up there. And it.
but did you feel that a little bit? Did you feel a little
Oh
sense
yeah,
of pride?
we felt pride. Yeah, sure.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah, I guess we are.
yeah.
And then when we got to Korea, we next morning we were in Korea. It was a pretty short trip. And when we got to Korea, as we come down the gangplank, there was a Korean band there. There was a colonel, and there was somebody from the Korean government, a Korean official from the Korean government, and the band started playing, and they played the American national anthem, then the Korean national anthem, and then I think just as we started down the gangplank, they started playing "If I Knew You Was Coming, I'd Have Baked a Cake."
Huh?
We laughed, and
yeah.
but we were in Busan.
That's where you landed?
We're very south of South Korea, and we were there a day or two, and then we started north by train, and every time we'd come to a little village, the Korean crew is a steam engine, would slow down, and the little Korean kids were real thin and ragged, and sometimes adults would run after us begging, and we'd give them sea rations and candy and everything.
Lots of poverty in South Korea.
A lot of poverty, and the had old wooden benches to sit in, and at the time there was some of the North Koreans were guerrillas in South Korea, and we thought, well, every time we go through one of these tunnels, they're allowed to blow it up. But anyway, we just figured nothing we could do about it and relaxed. And smoke would come in the windows when we go in the tunnels and everything. But anyway, well, I guess the next day, maybe we left like that morning, then late the next afternoon, where we were in Chuncheon, which is up real close to the 38th parallel, about in the middle of Korea. And we're there a day or so, and then a truck from the 176th Armored Field Artillery Battalion, where we were going, came after me and another boy named David from Louisiana. And the driver entertained us with war stories that, as we drove up there. It was about 40 miles where we had to go to our outfit, and it was in North Korea. And then we crossed the 38th parallel and kept going, and about 35 miles deep.
Did he try to scare you with some of the stories?
Some of the stories. He didn't do us this way, but they said usually he would tell them, even when there's no possible danger of it, kind of keep your head down here. He'd have people practically laying in the bed of the truck. But I guess he figured we were scared enough as it was. But he indicated he had been quite a few war experiences and everything. And I got headquarters battery and went to they were living in tents, and they told me that not to worry, they can't hit this place. And I wasn't there. I don't think I was there. I can't remember for sure. I think must have been there only about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I was on guard duty one night, and the Chinese shelled real bad all that night. They didn't hit us real bad. They hit us, maybe got close to us a few times, but the firing batteries and one boy was killed, outright, and they brought the other one up to the dispensary. We had a dispensary because we were headquarters battery. And I was on guard duty when he died, everything. Come to find out, he was a boy I was in basic training with, Camp Roberts. I didn't know him well or anything like that.
But where they brought him, was it a temporary medical facility, or what was that?
It was a tent. It was just medics. It wasn't no doctors.
MASH unit, or?
No, a MASH unit was about 20 miles back. 15 to 20. I imagine it's 20 miles back. And I remember we passed that.
Well, that was emotional for you then, knowing he had been mortally wounded and he didn't make it.
Yeah, it makes you realize that this is serious.
This is the real thing.
Of course, I'd got the idea that we'd get pretty close anyway. When we were going up there, we passed some big guns. Then a little bit we passed some guns which were 8-inch, what they called 8-inch guns. Then we passed 155s, which were a little bit smaller. Then we kept going. We got to ours, and ours were 105s, which can do a lot of damage, but still they're not real big guns. They're mounted on half tracks, and I guess they have a shell about this long, something like that.
Uh-huh.
But and the guys told me, said, there's a Chinese 3 miles in front of us, 3 miles to our left, and about three or 4 miles to our right. And said we were in a little triangle. And he said, and this road that comes up here, when it rains, it becomes impassable. But they said if we ever get in trouble, the United States Marines are only about 20 miles away, and they'll come to our rescue. And if the South Korean troops run. But later on that happened, and they didn't send anybody to the rescue of the guys. I was already going home, but some of them have wrote and told me about it. But they didn't want to risk losing any more troops, so they didn't.
So it was even a more dangerous situation than you might have first expected.
Yes, it was. It was. Well, then after I was there about 2 or 3 weeks, there was a boy up at what they call the Fire Support Coordination Center, and they were right by the firing batteries, one of the firing batteries, and the radio operator up there got wounded and evacuated, and they come and I don't remember if they asked volunteers or they just come up and told me I was going. So I had to get my stuff ready and go up there. That was a little scary because that old boy got wounded. I think him and an officer both got wounded and evacuated.
So you were going to replace?
Going to replace him. But it turned out it was a more dangerous, but it was a good deal for me. I didn't have to do radio. I didn't have to do guard duty, or I didn't have to do radio shifts. And my job was to help train South Korean radio operators under battlefield conditions. They'd have a South Korean battalion of artillery come in, and we'd train them. And they'd set up near the Americans, and after they were trained, well, they'd leave and another one would come in.
How long did you stay here?
I was there from, that was probably around the 1st of August, and I left, I guess, about, probably, about the middle of April.
So several months.
Yeah, about 8 months.